Welcome to the Evolution Partners podcast, where I talk with the world's leading thinkers, planners, and doers who are helping to build great companies in their own way. We learn how the work they're doing is creating an impact and get to know a little bit more about them and what makes them tick. This episode is brought to you by Evolution Partners, where we help leaders to confidently build enduring great companies using our proven, structured, strategic planning process that ensures you build and execute the right plan. Check us out at evolutionpartners.com.au. Also, you can check out our books, Made to Thrive, outlining how to be a great CEO, as well as Onboarded, which is about making your new hires more effective faster. Michael Michalowicz is a thinker, planner, and doer, and one of the most trusted voices in entrepreneurship today. By his 35th birthday, he'd founded and sold 2 multi-million-dollar companies. Confident that he'd cracked the formula for success, he became an angel investor and promptly lost his entire fortune. That failure became a turning point, driving him to rebuild from scratch and dedicate his life to helping entrepreneurs grow healthy, strong businesses that can thrive without burning out. Since then, Michael's become one of the most prolific small business authors of our time. His 9 books, including Profit First, Clockwork, The Pumpkin Plan, Fix This Next, Get Different, Surge, The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, My Money Bunnies, and his latest, All In, offer practical, powerful frameworks that have reshaped how founders lead, scale, and think. Michael's ideas have helped millions of entrepreneurs build more sustainable, systems-driven organizations. Michael, welcome to the podcast.
It is a joy to be with you. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you. It's great to have you. Before we dive into systems and frameworks, and frankly, there are so many, and each of them are brilliant in their own way, I'd love to start with you. What shaped your journey into entrepreneurship? Like, where did it all begin for you?
You know, Brad, it didn't start the way I think it does for many entrepreneurs, which is rags to riches. You know, my family struggled and this was my way out. Or the other story, which is my family were entrepreneurial and I had the bug. For me, I never aspired to be an entrepreneur. The reason I did it is I couldn't get a job I wanted. And out of university, I decided without the ideal job, and I was working for a few years, that I would create my own. And I fell in love with entrepreneurship, not in the moment. It actually was a frightening journey for years, but I started to understand it, get more comfortable with it. And ultimately, I love it more than anything else on this planet. And my wife's number one.
Yep. It goes without saying. Yeah. Well, we're kindred spirits in that sense for sure. I think for me, and probably for many people, the first time you came on their radar was a book called Profit First. And I think more than the fact that it flipped its head on traditional accounting, which I loved because it feels to me like it serves the tax office rather than the business owner.
Yeah.
I feel as though Profit First, it really spoke to the entrepreneur and the challenges that they have. So to speak to the content of that book, why does putting Profit First work so powerfully, do you think? And what's the biggest shift in mindset that you think that a founder must make to get that to stick?
Yeah. I think the reason Profit First is so successful is that it works with the psychology of how you and I, how all of us listening, how we're wired. And the core premise is when something comes first, we tackle it with a vengeance. With something that comes last, it gets ignored. It's the manana syndrome. It can wait and wait. So what's interesting about profitability is we treat that as the last consideration. It's the final take or the year end or the bottom line. Those are common phrases, which all mean it comes last. But the analogy I use is like, if I love my wife, I would never say, I love my wife so much, that's why I always choose to put her last. Or my health matters so much to me, I'm choosing to put it last from now on. That means it's not important. So what most businesses do is we focus on selling as much as we can, spending what we can, but we don't like to use the word spend or expense because that feels icky. We like to say growth. So I'm going to spend and grow, and profit is never considered. And sadly, for most businesses, they never get there. So with Profit First, what we do is every time revenue comes into your company, we take a percentage of that first as profit, hide it from the business. And now, because it comes first, you are assuring it's going to happen. but also it reverse engineers what's available. So if I want to have a 20% profit and $1,000 came in, well, I'm going to take $200 and I have to work with 800. And if I can't work with 800, it's not that I can't be profitable. It means there's something flawed in my business. I need to fix it. And so the mindset shift to the second part of your question of what people need to make is to have faith that when you take something first, our profit, our mind will find a way to work with the remainder. We are extraordinarily innovative beings, and every business owner listening in right now at times had more struggles than they do today, for sure, at some point in their life. But they're here today, which means they know how to navigate struggle. So we intentionally put that struggle back in the business, and you find innovative solutions.
Yeah, that's a great summary of quite a, I guess, comprehensive book and concept and framework. So thank you.
Thank you.
I find people start businesses, people become entrepreneurs because they want freedom. And the problem with freedom is that you then don't have the discipline enforced on you by a boss or by a corporation or wherever you've worked before around those spending limits. And that's where that comes in. So I find that the profit first approach, putting the profit into a bank account as soon as the money hits your bank, into a separate bank account, and that whole philosophy and framework to be quite good. But you touched on something there which comes from one of your other books called Clockwork, and you call it the QBR, I think, or the Queen Bee role. So what is the Queen Bee role, and why is it so important to understand, I guess, as a concept? And why do so many businesses confuse busy work with their true Queen Bee role?
Yeah. So as I was writing that book, what I found in researching businesses that were super effective, meaning they were efficient, they were getting things done, the owner wasn't necessary to work in the business, that the business had identified a key function within it that was always prioritized. So whatever it was, that function, everyone in the company knew that needs to be working. And maybe they weren't participating in serving that function, but they knew if that function was in trouble, the whole business is in trouble. It's the heart of the business. So I was asking myself, I wonder if there's a natural analogy. And sure enough, Mother Nature figures out a lot of things that we can translate back to business. And I found in bee colonies how a beehive scales so quickly is the entire hive of thousands of bees knows the most important priority of the entire hive, which is actually the production of eggs. So you need eggs to spawn more bees. Bees live, depending on the species, for a short period, 6 weeks to 8 weeks, very short lifespans. So the entire colony depends on production of eggs. Now, there is one bee who does this. It's called the queen bee. And so all of the other bees are of service to that bee. And they have other job functions. They may be collecting pollen. Some of them actually just cool or heat the hive. If they rub their wings together, they use friction to heat the hive, so they maintain the temperature. But they all know if egg production is down, we have to make sacrifices to keep egg production going. So some bees will commit suicide by not returning to the hive, so they're not consuming food, so enough food is there for the queen bee. Other ones, if there's a lack of hydration, they'll bring water back and they'll reprioritize it, so because the eggs depend on this. The one part where this analogy breaks down, and it's a shame because I try to address in the book, but I do confuse people. I'm not saying one person is the most important person, because I've heard people say, oh, I'm the queen bee, and therefore everyone must service me. No. It's the QBR. It's the R that's the most important, the role. It's the production of eggs. And so here's the deal. If the queen bee is not producing eggs at the volume they need, and she's the problem, they kill the queen bee and they spawn a new one. It's all about production of eggs. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, within our business, of all the things we do, what function is the most critical function? And how do we make it so that no matter what is happening, that it'll continue on, even if we have to not make the sacrifice of taking out the queen bee, but even if there's functional shifts, that role can never stop. If you know what that priority is, everything else does play second fiddle to that.
Do you find that one priority or role contextually for small to medium businesses emerges more than others?
Not necessarily, but I did find there is a common theme to find it. You have to know what your promise is to your customer. Like, what are you staking your reputation on? What do you want to be known for? So I'll give an example in myself. I want to be known for simplifying entrepreneurship, which is different. And we talked about it pre to airing. I am on a mission, if you will, to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. That's what my mission is. But my promise to my customer is when you consume something from me, that the entrepreneurial journey will be simplified, maybe not easier, but more accessible is my commitment. Then I asked myself and my team, of all the things we do, what's the way we can most simplify entrepreneurship, most deliver on that? And we agreed it's through my books. So the queen bee role is writing books, extraordinary books, I hope, that simplify entrepreneurship so that I can serve my purpose of eradicating entrepreneurial poverty. So I found that once you know your promise, simplify entrepreneurship, my commitment, ask yourself of all the things you do, what is most delivering on that commitment? That becomes your priority. So for me, my team blocks and tackles for me, so I'm always able to write books and spend time on it. My most recent book has been about a 3-year endeavor. It's coming out next year, but I've been working like crazy on it, and the team is preventing or blocking any other things that get in the way.
You really lead to a concept from one of your other books that's called Fix This Next, where you talk how most founders solve the wrong problems first.
Yeah.
How can leaders use the business priority pyramid to stop reacting? I mean, you just get sucked into putting out fires and problems, and it's very, very hard to get out of that. So how can they use this concept that you call the business priority pyramid to stop reacting and start fixing what really matters?
Yeah. It's interesting. You didn't really ask this part, but I want to add this part. The reason many business owners get stuck is because we can only see what's in our immediate purview, what's in front of us. And we make gut-based decisions on what we see. There's been studies about hikers get lost in the bush. I mean, it happens out where you are all the time, and people are sadly pass away lost in the woods because they simply are trying to navigate around them, but they don't have a target, something they're working toward, and they start moving in these circles. Actually, a news report just happened just a few days ago. Someone was hiking, got lost, and they started walking in circles and sadly perished. Well, in entrepreneurship, we often get kind of stuck in the woods and we're just like, what can I do next? And we're constantly in this panic mode. So the way out of it is to set a beacon. Of course, the question is, where's that beacon? So the business priority pyramid, what I did is I evaluated the elements of a business that are necessary to address. I translated it from Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So, for example, for survival, I guess is the right word, you and I need to breathe air, drink water, eat food. That's the basics. But we don't need to eat more and more and more food. There's actually a certain point where it becomes detrimental. You can only breathe so much oxygen before you become dizzy. You can only drink so much water before it actually could kill you. So you need the adequate amount. Once that's addressed, other concerns become priority, like shelter. We need shelter from conditions and so forth. In the business priority pyramid, foundationally, every business needs sales. That's the equivalent of breathing air. But you don't need more sales. You need adequate sales. And that's the key. So what we do to find what we need is we start at the base and say, do I have any sales? I have no sales. Okay, you're not breathing. We need to start breathing. But if you have some sales, we ask ourselves, is it adequate to support the next level, which is profit? And that's only done through analysis. If I have some sales coming in, I have to look at my profitability. If I don't have any profit but some sales, it's likely a profit issue. So we always ask, do we have any sales? And then is it adequate sales? And then we go to the next level, which is profit. Do we have any profit? And is it adequate? And the second you hit, no, we don't have any, that's the issue. If you don't find any issues, like there's no profit and there's some profit and there's some sales, then we simply have to ask ourselves, is it adequate to support growth above? The business priority pyramid, it's probably easier to visualize and you can probably Google it in seconds, but it's sales first, then profit, then efficiencies through the organization, then impact, which means serving clients not in a transactional nature, but a transformational nature. They sense belonging when they interact with you. And the highest level is legacy, which means continuance of a business. I think a lot of business owners start out and say, I know I'm focusing on my legacy. What is this going to mean? And they're skipping breathing oxygen. And if profit is building muscle, they skip that too.
Yeah, it helps you to make better decisions.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to move on to teams. I've heard it said before that a business is just people doing stuff and it's the job of the entrepreneur to enable the team. Within your models, you've got something called the FASO, which is fit, ability, safety, ownership, that helps leaders to build teams that that I guess care like owners, which in and of itself is such a powerful phrase, just
Yeah.
getting people to care, right?
Yeah.
So what's this first step to getting or putting FASO into practice?
Yeah.
And which of the four fit, ability, safety, ownership do founders usually underestimate?
I think they underestimate the O, which is ownership. So if there's one thing you did within that model, I would start at the end. And the most common refrain I hear is, I wish my employees would act like owners. So with that understanding, and I've experienced that too. I'm like, gosh, I wish my team would do that. I started to research what gives people a sense of ownership. So I'll give you a quick backstory because it's so fascinating. We sense ownership psychologically more than we do legally. So, for example, I own stock in some public US companies, and one of them is Ford. I drove by a Ford dealership just a week ago, and I didn't look at the building and say, I own part of that building. I sense like this is part of my company. No, I looked at it and said, I wonder how my stock is doing. They owe me money. So what's interesting about ownership is it often builds entitlement, actual legal ownership. I legally own part of Ford, maybe a minuscule part, but I legally own it. But I sense entitlement when I have ownership. There's another form of ownership, which is called psychological ownership. And that's what we want to employ with our employees. What it is that we feel that it's our possession, even if we don't legally own it. And I think the best example would be a car. So I used to have a Ford pickup truck, and I remember when I got it, the care I took for it. There's actually three things I've noticed that, and there's research that supports this, that triggers a sense of ownership. One is I have authority over it, meaning I decide when I drive that truck, where I park it in my driveway. It's available to me all the time. So it's under my authority. The second thing is personalization. I program the radio stations to the stations I like. I can put a bumper sticker or a window sticker on it. I do what I want with it. And the last thing is intimate knowledge. I read through the entire manual when I got that truck to understand what every bell and whistle is. Now, if you think about a rental car, you don't look at the manual, you don't program the stations, and you probably abuse it. I took really good care of my pickup truck. But here's the most interesting thing. It's not my pickup truck. The bank actually owns it. I purchased it through a loan through the bank. They own the title to it. At any time, if I fail to make my obligations, my payments, they take it back. So the crazy part is I don't legally own the vehicle, yet I feel like I own the vehicle. And this is what we can do with our employees. The key is, instead of telling your people what to do, that's like what the rental car does, drive only a certain amount of miles or kilometers. Don't take it outside of a certain territory. It better be returned clean without a single scratch on it. That is direction. And when you tell people what to do, they retaliate by taking advantage of things. Like I abuse the car. I'll drive very aggressively. But when it comes to my car that I don't really own, I have that three abilities, personalization and so forth. So our employees, what we do is when they have a job, say, hey, how can you make this more of your own? What would you like to see? Personalization. Give people adequate and more training. Say, hey, do you really want to be super knowledgeable at this? Give them a sense of authority where they can give it some direction. It has to be within your guidelines, but say, hey, where would you like to take this? So they put some personality into it. They give it direction and input. They're thinking through it and they learn about it. That actually builds a sense of ownership. Now, there's one key component. Be very careful of what's called fiefdoms. And a fiefdom is where I have so much control and authority over it that I block others out. And now I have leverage. So do what's called collective psychological ownership. It's where you have multiple people involved in a project or something like that, and they team up. I will tell you when you're nailing it. When your employee says, oh, your company's doing well, Brad, they don't have an ownership. When they say, hey, Brad, our company is doing well, that is when they have a sense of ownership. So look for terms that express ownership, and that means they actually are feeling ownership.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. On that point, I think that you've said before that your biggest leadership failure was not investing enough in your team. So what did it cost you, and how did it change the way that you build culture today?
Yeah, I've lost some extraordinary employees. And really how it cost me was my employees left because there was a better financial opportunity elsewhere. And these were great people. And I didn't treat them poorly. I just didn't invest in them. And reciprocity is a human nature. When someone's making an investment in you, it's natural for most people to become vested in the business outcome. How we run our business today is we use a technique. Actually, it's very interesting. We don't use corporate visions anymore. I found that, and I actually have a speech around this topic next week in Mexico, of all places. Now I'm like, this is how I'm going to open up. Most businesses have been set or designed to have a corporate vision. We're going to achieve this size. We're going to take on this competitor, these types of clients. But none of my employees really care about the vision of the corporation. The person who cares most is the owner of the corporation or the leadership team, because it means something to my ego, honestly. But my team has their own visions. I know at my office, one person is looking to buy their first home. Another person is looking to overcome a very big health scare. Another person, they actually just pulled it off, looking to move to another country. Once we understand the vision of our colleagues, and integrate that into the corporate vision, then we have what I call the collective vision. So don't set a corporate vision, set a collective vision. Understand what everyone's milestone is. And then as a leader, say, how do we help you support or achieve those goals? Listen, I'm not going to buy you that new house. I'm not going to send you to the new country. But if there's ways that I can remind you of it, support you of it, avail time to you, be flexible in the schedule, make introductions and connections, I'm going to do it. And no matter what, I'm going to keep you on that goal. And when I start prioritizing your personal goals, you're going to prioritize what's the corporate goal, which honestly is my personal goal.
Your personal goal, thank you. You mentioned simplify entrepreneurship, and it's like a rallying cry that I've heard several times across your body of work. What are you hoping to achieve? I feel that in my observation, entrepreneurship sometimes doesn't do what it says on the tin, if that makes sense.
No, it doesn't. Not even close. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
And it is, because there's so much promise. Yeah. What's your reaction to that?
So the mission I have for myself is to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. And that's not necessarily it is a little bit in the public domain, but that's for me. My promise is to simplify entrepreneurship. So for me, what gets me up in the morning is to eradicate the struggle entrepreneurs have. So what is entrepreneurial poverty? It's this vision of financial freedom, don't have to worry about money, personal freedom, do I want what I want, impact to serve my community, to serve myself, my family. And then the reality, which is I have no money, I'm working like insane hours, and impact, I can barely even scratch 2 nickels together. I can't focus. There's 350 million of us on this planet, 350 million small businesses. And that's in US standards, a company that does 25 million US or less. So very similar in Australian dollars. And 350 million of us. Of that, over 80% are struggling financially, like living check by check, almost everybody. And what confounds me is if you start a business, you're pretty smart. Like it takes courage, a little bit of ignorance, because if you knew what you were getting into, and it takes smarts to actually pull it off. And everyone of these businesses is attracting some volume of prospects and making them customers. I mean, that's really not easy stuff. And yet, how can't we figure out profit? So I'm on a mission to serve them, partly because I couldn't figure out profit. Here's the truth. Every single book I've written, Brad, isn't because I know the stuff. Every book I've written is because I've struggled with that stuff. I don't know how to be profitable. And so I researched it. And once it finally worked for me, I'm like, I'm going to share it. I don't know how to be. I'm not a good leader. I want to be. I'm a meh leader. So I want to be a great leader. And that's why I wrote All In. And as in the process of research and deploying, I've improved. I'm still not there yet. And I just want to, I think entrepreneurship makes this globe go around in many, many ways. We need you to be wildly successful, Brad. And so same with everyone listening, and me too. And if I can help move that forward, it just fills my heart.
I'm so glad that I asked that question, because it's such a personal and impactful and valuable response. So thank you. It's touching. In a similar note, the book that I'm about to launch is about building a better business rather than a bigger business.
Love it.
As we spoke about off air. So what do you think that a better business looks like for you? How would you describe a better business?
The better business for me now, and we just started it, is investing in businesses, like truly partnering inside the business. I started it about 2 years ago, and we've been figuring out the model. Now we have 9 active investments going, and we're doing more and more and more. And here's what I found really is a better business for me. It's not giving people, we work with struggling businesses. It's not giving a struggling business, here's some money, you can fix it. No, it's finding a struggling business, use the money we have to bring in the people we need at the times we need to insert themselves to fix those businesses. So we pay for everything. And we don't take any equity because once you take an equity in a business, a lot of people devalue themselves when they're struggling. And then 5 years later, when they're healthy, they're giving away everything because they gave away equity when they devalued it. So what we do is we just share in profitability during the time that we're invested inside the business, which is usually 3 to 5 years. To me, that's the better business model. I wish all investors did that. I wish when I had investors, they did that with me. So that's why I started that. And to me, that's the better business I'm trying to build now.
Thank you. What's a book that you'd recommend for our audience?
Well, a book that's consistent with that it's called Reset by Dan Heath. And specifically, it's how a business can reset itself and recover. Its strategies are spot on. It's consistent with what we've done.
Yeah, that's a great recommendation. Thank you. How can people learn more about you, your business, and your work? Because there is quite a body of work.
Yeah, there's a lot. It can get a little overwhelming, but we just introduced last couple of days an AI model where you can work with an AI version of me for free. It's just you can access it on our website. The website, I'll give you a shortcut. It's Mike Motorbike because that was my nickname in grade school, like the motorcycle, MikeMotorbike.com. I also have MikeMichalowicz.com, but no one can spell or remember Michalowicz, but Mike Motorbike. And when you go to MikeMotorbike.com, all these books are there. You can get free chapters so you can start exploring it. And these aren't just like, throwaway crappy chapters. They're actually the action chapters so you can see results. I used to write for the Wall Street Journal here in the States. You can get some of those articles for free. And I have a podcast too at MikeMotorbike.com.
Mike Motorbike, I love it. So what haven't we discussed today that you wanted to cover off?
Maybe just one last little thing. Maybe it's a word of encouragement. I was approached, I don't know, this is ways back, but I hear over and over again that small business is the backbone of the economy. And someone said to me, did you do the research on that? And I didn't. So that day, this is a few years back, I did. To research, is really small business the backbone of the economy? And what I found was shocking. Actually, it is not the backbone of the economy. It's the entire economy. And what I found was that every single business I studied started off as a small business or a small business idea that got invested in. But everything started small. And many companies chose to stay small or deliberately stay small or accidentally stay small. But every single business started off as a small idea. I'm like, oh my gosh, why are we saying small business is the backbone of the economy? Small business is the entire economy. If small business fails, we're all screwed. And so once I read that stat, I'm like, okay, I got to double down on my effort to be of service to small business. We need your success desperately.
I love it. What a beautiful way to close. I guess, what is such a mission-driven purpose for yourself to help the 350 million small businesses around the world. So, Mike, thank you so much for your time and sharing your wisdom today. It's been a pleasure and a joy to have you on the podcast.
This has been a joy for me too. Thanks, Brad.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I did. If you'd be kind enough to leave a review for the podcast, that'd be really helpful to other like-minded entrepreneurs, and then we can grow our community. If you want to find out more about our guests, head over to evolutionpartners.com.au/podcast, where you can find show notes and other additional reading. Hope to see you back next week. Until then, keep thriving.